Hello, Professor Wood. This is Jessica Capulin, and this is my student art critic analysis. So, to start off, when one thinks of a flower bouquet, the mind might often conjure an image of an arranged collection of flowers, each with its own color. However, Gustave Courbet's 1862 artwork, aptly named Bouquet of Flowers in a Vase, offers a refreshing departure from this norm. Courbet, who boldly proclaimed himself as the proudest and most arrogant man in France, was born in Ornans, France in 1819. Courbet's artistic vision was as conventional as his self proclaimed title. When visiting his friend Etienne Boundy, Courbet dabbled in flower painting surrounded by inspiration. Eventually, he painted enough flowers to tell a friend, "I'm getting money out of flowers." As stated in the Getty collections, the painting itself had a variety of flowers displayed. Courbet is evident in the abundant display of flowers in one vase that blooms at different times of the year: lilies, roses, gladiolus, stocks, asters, enpomios, poppies, and others. Courbet illustrated different flowers and colors and placed them into a vase. It states Courbet used broad brush strokes and often spread his thick paint with a palette knife. Using thick brush strokes softened the natural pattern of the flowers. Even without prominent details, it is still possible to distinguish the differences in each flower, with lines contouring most of the leaves. The flowers take up most of the canvas, each flaunting their differences. The light is displayed more at the top right of the painting, emphasizing the flowers and less of the vase. Despite the vase being in the title, it is barely visible, and the brown spear-shaped pot almost blends in with the foreground. My interpretation of the art comes from what flowers symbolize and how that differs from a flower bouquet. A flower represents life and growth. However, a flower bouquet indicates temporary beauty. This arrangement results from flowers snatched from the soil that nourishes them, and because of this action, they don't stay alive for that long. Safe to say, that doesn't make me a fan of flower bouquets. It is hard to understand why we must destroy a symbol of life for a temporary beauty arrangement. However, when I saw this painting, I didn't derive the meaning of destruction. The flowers don't look like they were cut from the stems and tied with a rubber band to fit into this vessel. The flowers look like they were placed inside the vase and are now sprouting alongside one another. The collection of flowers is intertwined together, but growing in different directions. This aspect goes against the traditional element of a bouquet because the arrangement is chaotic, but still beautiful. The meaning I derive from this painting is that diverse aspects of the flowers can compare to the growth of those around us. One beauty of life is growing and learning, and it is even better when surrounded by loved ones or people from an environment you bonded with. Although our journey may differ from others, I feel it is a privilege to have these connections. For the next piece, we have an artwork created by a French painter, Paul Cézanne, a post-impressionist artist whose technique was influenced by his hero Gustave Courbet, the artist of the first painting. Paul Cézanne is an influential artist of modern painting. He was obsessed with tradition and overturning it. He felt himself a failure and the best painter of his time. Cézanne started painting in 1860 in his birthplace of Aix-en-Provence, France, and afterwards studied in Paris. Like Gustave Courbet, his technique used thick brushstrokes in his artwork. However, Cézanne wielded the knife more aggressively with quick and almost violent strokes. The oil on canvas painting, The Eternal Feminine, was made around 1877 and illustrates these aggressive strokes. As we saw in the first painting, thick strokes soften the details of a subject. The details are even more obscure since the strokes are bold but intense in this painting. Cézanne uses diagonal strokes, seen here, to impose order and to unify his picture's surface. This technique is enough to illustrate the crowd's shape, their instruments, and the unknown woman at the center. However, the lines that outline the bodies are needed to distinguish these shapes. For example, it is prominent that the central figure is a nude woman because of the long hair and the small gray lines outlining her breasts. Due to the violent brushstrokes, there is no sign of facial expression on the woman and the man surrounding her. Instead of visible facial features, there are slabs of paint dabbed onto where the eyes and eyebrows are supposed to be for most of these figures. The crowd is all men because the gray strokes illustrate heavier and distinct figures and short hair. Although actual eyes are not visible on the men, the viewer can still interpret that these men have their attention directed towards the central figure. The eyes of the women are also not present. In their place are the eye sockets dabbed with red strokes, almost like they're bleeding, giving the viewer a sense that she is the main subject and may be suffering. Not only is the woman painted on a bright white background, but she is illustrated as if she's sitting down on a throne, waiting to be worshipped, and at the same time facing exposure. It is almost as if the natural light emphasizes her. Meanwhile, the men's garments have dark blue, red, and gray tones, making them easier to be part of a background. The woman's pigment is white and pale. Cezanne also experimented with graduated tonal variations, as seen in the men's skin tone. My first impression of this painting was admiration, since the woman was not only exposed, but also positioned in a confident position. It was as if she didn't mind being the center of attention, until I started looking at the details of her eye socket and how, in a way, some of the men surrounding her looked aggressive. After considering these details, the meaning I derive from this artwork is just the opposite of the artwork's title: vulnerability and haunting. Although confidence can be an attribute of femininity, the state of exposure in front of anybody, especially among men, leads to negative feelings I would not want to go through for eternity. According to art historian Jean-Claude Levenstein, the young Cezanne wanted to make people scream, and the visualization of me being in the same position as this unknown woman would make me want to do just that. Thank you so much for your time.